everybody, and welcome back to Fire and Pod. We are a House of the Dragon recap brought to you by Silent Podcast, where we are anything but silent. I am your host, Katie, and I am here again with Chanelle. Chanelle, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for asking.
Of course. Great to see you. And we're back with Javier again this week. Javier, how are you? It's great to see you again.
Hi, great to be back for the third week in a row.
We love it. We love it. We have an episode to talk about this week. There is a lot to talk about. They, I don't know. I felt a little blindsided. It only took episode 4 until we got to the spoiler alert incest. Are we allowed to even say incest on YouTube? I don't even know, but we are. We're saying it. There's plenty of it. I hope that doesn't get us in trouble. I have no idea. But yeah, it didn't take them long this season to get. Although I guess in the first Game of Thrones we saw incest in literally episode 1, so I guess it's a slow roll this time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Big yikes.
Yeah,
Big
but
yikes.
we knew it was happening. I mean, technically, episode 1 it happened in Game of Thrones, so like, why am I surprised?
Exactly.
At least they left it a little bit longer. That's nice of them.
Yeah, no one got pushed out a window this time.
No one got hurt. It's fine.
Yeah, I guess we're okay. Maybe emotionally, but
yeah, I was gonna say
just emotionally.
Hearts. Yeah,
just some broken hearts. What did you guys think of the episode before we get into the nitty gritty? How'd you guys feel about this episode? Any top line thoughts before we start fully recapping?
This episode felt kind of slow to me. I don't think a lot. I don't feel like a lot happened.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I don't like there. We don't really talk about the time jump. I assume she's 18 at this point. I hope she's 18 at this point.
Mm-hmm.
We get little bits and pieces of things, but it seems like it's one of those like segue pieces. Like a couple big things happen, so like not turning it down in that way, but not as action packed as like I think the other 3 have been.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. I have mixed feelings.
Mm-hmm.
It may be my least favorite episode yet for various reasons, but we'll get into it throughout.
Okay. Well, I'm excited to hear why. So we can jump in. I think, this felt like a foundational episode, like they're putting the pieces into place. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. I was kind of like, oh shit, we're really doing this. We're really doing this.
It's going down.
Yeah, it's going down. But yeah, all right, let's go ahead. We'll jump into it. So the episode opens with Rhaenyra. I guess we call it a tour to meet all the different suitors in the different kingdoms who are vying for her hand in marriage, essentially. So she seems unpleased and unfazed by these men. She's originally meeting Lord Dondarrion. I think they're in the Storm's End here at the Baratheons' castle. And she is a little rude to him because he's very old, and he says something about her great grandmother, and she was like, oh, how beautiful. And he was like, well, it was over half century ago. And she's like, yeah, exactly, like you're old. And they're like, that's rude. She's just over it.
Yes.
Yeah. And then like they pan through like the line of guys waiting to introduce themselves and sell themselves to her, and this just seems like a miserable experience.
Agreed.
Totally
miserable. I would not want to be in Rhaenyra's shoes.
Me neither. She has like a little kid come up to her, the son of the Blackwood from the Riverlands, I think is what I wrote down. And he's getting made fun of by a guy who's, I didn't catch what house he's from or his sigil, but I did listen to the official Game of Thrones podcast, which is hosted by Jason Concepcion, and I don't remember his co-host, but I'm a big Jason Concepcion fan, and he gives like really great history. If anybody doesn't listen to the HBO official podcast, it's actually pretty good. But he was mentioning that those two houses have like a lifelong feud, and they probably would have like come to blows anyway if it weren't for so that wasn't over Rhaenyra. That was just like a little Easter egg of
I was gonna say
history,
little spat.
apparently.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty interesting. But yeah, this kid just like murders this guy who's making fun, like full on murders the shit out of him.
Listen, that was hilarious because
that was hilarious.
This dude's like, look at you, you're so small, like you're so weak, and he's like, I'm gonna stab you to death.
Yeah.
Like, good night.
Yeah, he took him out.
Yeah, I loved it.
He really did.
Love it.
Yeah.
Irony.
That was wild. I was like, okay, Game of Thrones, throw in some gruesome just for the sake of being gruesome.
Yep.
Literally just for the shock. I don't think there was any point for that scene other than just like,
Right.
let's throw something gruesome.
And like
But
a little kid just like kicking this full-grown man's ass.
Yeah.
Which is pretty great. Good for
We
him.
love it.
Yeah. But Rhaenyra's pretty much just like, I'm out of here. We're cutting the tour. We're leaving. Sir Kristen Cole walks her out. Apparently she's ending this tour 2 months early. So it sounds like the tour was going on for around a year. She's ending it 2 months early. So I do, Chanelle, to your point, I think she's 18. I think it's been 4 years now since the beginning of the season. So I think Damon says it's been 4 years since they've seen each other. So I think we get confirmation that we're now a year ahead of where we were last episode. Right. Alicent is no longer pregnant, which makes sense. I mean, she was ready to pop in the last episode. So that's just kind of time setting. They're on a ship on the way back to King's Landing, and a dragon pops up out of nowhere. They hear the sound of the dragon, and then the dragon just like rocks their ship. It's Daemon's dragon, rocks the ship. It's on his way to King's Landing. It knocks Rhaenyra over. What is Daemon doing? He obviously didn't know Rhaenyra was on that ship, I would assume. Maybe he just thought it was like a random Targaryen ship and he was just messing with it. But like, really, guy?
Yeah, no, I'm not sure what he's doing. I don't know. At this point, like maybe it's just like a way for him to. Maybe he's trying to make amends. I'm not too sure what he's trying to do at this. Maybe he's just bored.
Yeah,
Because he's like, look, I lead this kingdom, which is like literally nothing. Like there's no one there. It's stones. Like who knows?
Right. Seems like he's just trying to be provocative.
That too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. At
Just
least in the moment where he hits
Damon.
that ship.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm sorry, but we do have to. I want to bring one thing up about this scene.
Yes.
Do y'all notice the CGI, like the water? It was. I'm sorry, y'all, I don't know, like, it was so terrible. I was like,
I didn't notice.
I want y'all to go back to watch that scene after this and just look at how bad the background looks. And I was like, where's this $20 million going? Like,
It went to that dragon. I guess.
It was there so quickly, and then it was just done.
Oh my god! There was another instance where it was bad later on, which I also mentioned. But
was it with the Godswood later on? Because I noticed, I was like, this just looks like the fakest tree I've ever seen in my life. Like it just didn't look good. I don't know. Maybe that wasn't the part, but I did notice it later on.
That was not the part, but I need to go back and watch it. Because there was a third part, and now we're just checking too many things off here.
We're getting a little messy.
House of the Dragon.
All the things,
like the whole episode, a little messy, so it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it fits the theme. For sure. For sure. Damon's being messy here too, banging the dragon. So that sends Rhaenyra flying. She hits her head, and then she looks back and she sees the dragon. She realizes that it's Damon's dragon flying towards King's Landing, and she has a look on her face that's kind of like hard to say if she's like confused because she just got her head hit and was like, what's going on? Or she's like amused because she sees Daemon coming back and she's like, oh, like something's about to go down. She just seems like intrigued by the situation. So the next scene we see at King's Landing, everybody's coming into the throne room. Just a big group of people. I don't know who these people are. There's a lot of women coming in. I mean, there's just like people, I guess, in the Red Keep. And Daemon comes in with a crown made of wood. Rhaenyra is there kind of like hiding. It almost seems like she's hiding in the background. She doesn't want to get noticed by the king. And Daemon comes in. He has a crown made of wood on his head, and he's holding the crab feeder's weapon. And the King's Guard kind of just like holds a sword to his chest right away. And Daemon says to the king, like, here, take this weapon. It's added to the chair. And then I think they realize that he's there in peace.
Yeah.
He also got a haircut.
He did get a haircut.
How do we feel about the haircut?
Because
I miss old Daemon.
Yeah, I don't love it.
It was not my favorite look.
No, not my favorite. Do you think it's because he had so much crab feeder blood in his hair?
That's what I was saying. Because how
Oh.
many? I don't think it was like a year. I don't know if it had been a year or like maybe it was just like. Because so she was like very pregnant and there was like a baby in the scene. So I think it was just months after that happened, really. So it hadn't even been a year. So maybe I was actually gonna say that, Katie. I think it's just because of how much blood and guck he had in his hair from all that battle. It was probably so matted at that point.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is that Rhaenyra slaughtered that boar and she was covered in blood and she's good. Her hair looks great. he just needs to get her hair care routine, I guess. Figure
Come
it out.
on, get it
Exactly.
Yeah,
together.
get it together, Damon. Not a good
He
look.
doesn't have her team of people. She's the princess.
That's true.
You
She
know?
does have a pretty large team of people.
Yeah. He's just
That makes
living in the
sense.
stepstones. Like, who's even there?
Yeah.
Yeah, just the crabs, which is exactly what he says to King Viserys. So King Viserys has an interesting reception to Daemon, and as the more I see King Viserys, I think I like him more and more. Which I don't know if I'm supposed to, but I just I don't know what. There's something about him that just
He'd be great if he wasn't king. That's all.
yeah, yeah.
He
I
seems
think
like
you're
a
right.
nice guy.
He does seem like a nice guy. So he says, "Do you wear a crown? Do you also call yourself king?" And Daemon tells Viserys that after they beat the crab feeder, they named him king of the Narrow Sea, but he knows that there's only one true king. And he calls him Your Grace, and he says, "My crown and the stepstones are yours, My Grace," and then he kneels. My light just went off in the background. That was very distracting. Sorry. Viserys asks where Lord Corlys is, and he tells him that he sailed home to Driftmark, and the crabs now own the stepstones. So Lord Corlys still not psyched, not having it with King Viserys, not coming
Nah,
back,
he's
not
still
trying to make
pissed.
nice. Yeah, still pissed, holds a grudge.
Yeah, I feel like it's like a couple things there. Like, one, he didn't marry the daughter, so he didn't join
Right.
the houses. And two, they took a really long time to help them.
Really long time.
In the stepping stones.
Years, 3 years,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, 3 years. They just kind of left them. So, I wouldn't be happy with him either.
Mhm.
Right.
It should be interesting when I'm interested to see what they're if they've even talked in the past few years, like when they actually see each other again, what's that going to be like? Hopefully we get that in
Yeah.
the next few episodes. I feel like that's going to be a great scene and an interesting dynamic to see where they are at that point. Given how the episode ends, which we'll get to eventually, but it'll be interesting to see how that's going to be when he sees Lord Corlys again.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested because he comes up throughout the episode. He seems to be also someone who's provoking a little bit. We'll talk about that when we get there. Viserys stands up and goes to Daemon, and he takes the crown from him, and then he tells Daemon to rise, and then they have a nice little hug, and it feels like almost a weight has been lifted off of Viserys' shoulders. Everybody in the room is clapping. They all seem happy that this finally has been put to bed, and their feud seems to somewhat be over. They're making amends, and Viserys tells him that the realm owes him a great debt, and they throw a celebration in Daemon's honor. So how about that for Daemon?
Yay. Brotherhood.
Yeah, it just kind of makes me feel a little sad for Viserys. Like, he just seems to really just want his brother back. Like, they
Yes.
have a very small family, and I have a few notes about this too, like later on in the episode, and areas where it feels like this comes up. But I just feel like Viserys, it feels like he just wants his family to get along and just be a ruling family together, and it's just at every turn, Rhaenyra's kind of disobeying him. Daemon can't be tamed. It's just like Viserys is kind of on his own. So I think he's really happy to just have his brother back in this
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
He just seems to lose control at every angle. Like, he isn't able to keep it all together. And you're totally right, Katie, because you can tell the way he was talking to him, like, "Oh, mother, you were
Yeah.
mother's favorite," and like, remember when we did, like, like reminiscing about old, like, it was old times, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah, no, it was nice for Viserys to like finally kind of get his brother back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we know that when you're watching the scene, you know that Daemon obviously has an ulterior motive. He's not
Oh,
doing
yeah.
this for his brother. So it's just also
No.
sad to think like
he's
for
using it.
Viserys, he's like the
I
weak
know.
king. People are like his own brothers, like his only weakness is his family, and they're also trying to kind of manipulate him. So it's just like I feel a little bad for Viserys, like damn,
Me
like
too.
So
I know, poor guy. Can't catch a break. He really
not
can't.
at all.
But then okay, we do cut to that party in the garden, and exactly what you said, Chanelle. We see Daemon and Viserys kind of just joking around with each other, like you said, talking about who Mother's favorite was. Rhaenyra comes over and congratulates Daemon, and he kind of just gives her like a look, and he notices that she's still wearing the necklace of Valyrian steel that he gifted to her 4 years ago now. She's still wearing it. She's wearing it on the tour as well with the men. So she didn't only put it on for Daemon. She's been wearing it since. And he kind of has a little look on his face, but he doesn't say anything to her. And Allison brings up that maybe Damon would like to see a tour of the tapestries. And Viserys is like, yeah, that's exactly what he wants to see, right? Like, he's like, yeah, no, I don't think he wants anything to do with that. And they kind of make fun of her. And you could tell her feelings are hurt. She feels kind of like an idiot. And Rhaenyra says, like, I would like to see them. And Viserys says, well, then you should not deprive yourself. And she basically just says, like, I'll go alone. And then she sat alone on a bench, and Viserys called for more wine. So now he's getting wasted, but like jovial wasted instead of upset wasted like he was
White
last
girl
episode.
wasted, you know.
Yeah. Exactly. So Alicent then goes to approach Rhaenyra, and they have a nice conversation. They both just seem really lonely, and they obviously miss their friendship. And it feels like Rhaenyra is kind of letting her walls down a little bit with Alicent. And this is really where you see the differences between them. And I think we see it pretty obviously throughout the episode, the differences between these two and how they've just grown in different directions in their lives. But Alicent just seems to think that the tour that Rhaenyra was on would be an honor, and that it's rare for women to even get a choice at all around who they're going to marry, let alone all the men in the kingdom fawning. And Rhaenyra basically says, they just want my bloodline so we can have babies. Yeah. Like, I have, I have Valyrian blood, and that's what they want for their offspring. And she says to Alicent how romantic it must be to get imprisoned in a castle and made to squeeze out heirs. And big oof for Alicent there. Because that's kind of an unintentional dig, maybe.
Yeah, I feel like she's kind of just jealous that she gets a choice.
Yeah.
In the matter, she was basically forced into this, right? Yeah. So with this like older man. So... and she gets to like actually choose who she wants to be with. So this is like, and you're right, like with women in that time, they don't have much of a choice. And she's actually getting like, she's getting more than what most women in that time would get, right? So it's just, I can see why she feels better about it.
Yeah. And she's like kind of looking at, I don't want to say gift horse in the mouth, but she really is. It's like she doesn't really understand that this is not something that happens for women.
That's all you're gonna get at this point. So
yeah, no, I totally agree. You could definitely see that, like Alicent, she feels some type of way about it, which makes sense. But I will say, like, it was nice. Like, sorry about that. It was nice to see, because at the beginning I really was looking forward to Alicent and Rhaenyra being like a strong duo. And they kind of broke apart. So it was nice to see them kind of like like a reunion between the girls, and like seeing them finally on good terms, like since the first episode, to see them actually like get along well. So I thought it was like heartwarming to finally see them two like trying to rebuild some kind of semblance of a relationship. So I definitely like that.
Yeah, I like that a lot too. And Alicent tells Rhaenyra that, the king is frustrated, but Alicent is glad that she's home. She has very few friends lately, and she still feels like she's Lady Alicent and still herself, but all anyone knows her as now is the queen. And it almost feels like she's saying like she's losing herself in being the queen. And Rhaenyra is really her only true friend. And Rhaenyra takes her hand, and they have a really nice moment, and she says that she's missed her too. And it seems like they are starting to rebuild something. I'm really interested to see where this goes in terms of their relationship in the future, especially as we jump forward in time. Like I'm really looking forward to seeing how their friendship, or just even their relationship, whether it's a friendship or not, changes, blossoms, grows, breaks. I'm curious to see it.
Me too.
Yep. Same.
Yeah. So in the next scene, Rhaenyra and Daemon, they find a minute alone with each other, and they start speaking in Valyrian. She asks him why he's back, and he says, she says to him, there's surely more to your return than simply taunting my father. And he looks again at her necklace, and he's kind of giving her like I don't know what it is with the looks that this man is giving her, but he's really just like giving her these saucy little looks. And he says that he's only there because of the comforts of home. And she's like, you were never comfortable here, like, I don't know what the deal is. So he says to her then, she says to him first that he's maybe matured a little bit. He seems to have changed since being through his adventures. And then he says to her, you've matured yourself these last 4 years, princess. And then she kind of like gives him a look, and he goes, you'll get used to the attention. And this is where we should have known, like on a rewatch, this is way more obvious, because I just watched the episode again before we recorded to take some notes.
I knew.
I didn't like pick it up, I guess, in the first watch. I was kind of like, what's going on here? But yeah, he's feeling it.
I felt it from like episode 1, honestly. So
they do have chemistry. That is for sure.
They have chemistry. Mm-hmm. And again, I guess Oh, I guess it's okay because I was like, well, I guess they're younger in the books, but I was like, wait, but she's really young, so like, okay,
She's not. You said last week she was 9 in the books, right?
she's 8.
Oh God.
Yeah, but I don't think this. I think they added this. I don't think.
Okay, good. That
I
makes me
don't-
feel a little better.
Yeah, no. They added this. They definitely wouldn't have.
That was going to be my question when we got to
Yeah.
the part. I was like, wait, Chanelle, you have to tell me that this was.
Yeah.
Which honestly might make it
There's
worse,
a
but we'll
reason.
get to that when we get to
I
but
know.
that might
It's like,
make it
is
worse
that
if
better?
they
Is it
added that.
worse? I don't know.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
feel like it's being added for a reason. So
Mhm.
it's like it makes sense. I think it makes sense, but we'll have to see like you never know like what direction it's gonna go in versus the books and stuff. Like the books is just source material.
Right.
Yeah.
So like but they you know they change their stuff all the time. But no, it no, this I don't think all that stuff happened in the books, so you're fine.
Yeah, I don't like again, like is it I mean it's better because of the age, but is it
Yeah.
well, we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
So they have a little bit of a conversation about how she's like, it's not the attention that bothers me, but she basically says how King Viserys wants to sell her off. And he says, once you're married, you could do what you want. And she says something about like his wife, and he just like clearly hates her. She says that they haven't had a baby, and he's like, a baby wouldn't be able to grow in that hostile environment. Like he just hates his wife, meaning like her womb. So she says that her mother was forced to produce heirs until it killed her, and she's not going to subject herself to that same fate. And he says back to her, like what happened to your mother was a tragedy, but we live in a tragic world, and if you live your life in fear, you're really going to forsake the best parts of life. And she says to him that she has no desire to live in fear and only in solitude, which is sad. And that makes me sad. She's so young, like that's sad. And again, I always feel like they had up until this point had a nice relationship with each other where it seemed like they were close. It seemed like they could have more, deeper conversations than she could have maybe obviously with her dad. They don't have that kind of relationship. And it feels like they get along on a different level than Damon and his brother, and her and her dad. And we kind of saw that a little bit here.
Yeah, no, I want to bring up 2 quick points about this scene.
Yeah, please.
First of all, I do agree with you, Katie. I felt like in the first 2 episodes, I was really interested to see Damon and Rhaenyra's relationship develop, but I thought it was going to be like a more, like a family, oh, my uncle's kind of like not the best person, but like he kind of gets me and I kind of get him. So like it'll be like a struggle for Rhaenyra to come to terms with whatever Damon ends up doing. I didn't think it would go down this path personally until this episode. Then during this scene, I started to be like, this seems a little manipulative now. Like Damon is now doing some shady shit towards Rhaenyra, which I thought he wasn't going to necessarily do such shady actions towards Rhaenyra. I thought there would be more of like a family love in the situation than what it ended up being. Secondly, I also wanted to mention when Rhaenyra was talking about everything, and you kind of see Rhaenyra's like trauma with her mother is not really like the fact that her mother died giving birth. I don't think she's over it yet. And you even see it when she says marriage for women is a death sentence, and she's talking about her mother giving all these heirs. So it seems like Rhaenyra definitely still has this trauma towards giving birth, and she hasn't really gotten past like the situation with her mother. So hopefully, like moving forward, like maybe she'll be able to have these conversations with somebody, because I feel like that's going to be like a crutch for Rhaenyra to like become the queen that we want her to become, So it should be interesting to see how that develops and if she can overcome those like fears that she currently has.
Yeah, for sure. And we hear later on too from Viserys that he's also still mourning, Queen Aemma. Like neither one of them is over this. It's not that they would get over it. I mean, the wounds still are going to exist, and mourning takes a really long time and grief. But it's been 4 years, and it seems like this is really a sticking point for her. Like she doesn't want to get married. She wants to be alone. She doesn't want to be forced into the same, situation that her mother was put into, which is it's interesting because like. Obviously, that's not necessarily going to happen to her. It didn't happen to Alicent. But even in the first episode, she was saying, I don't want to have kids. I don't want to, I just want to be a knight. So, it's interesting. And I think you're right. Like, a lot of this episode is based on talking about how this is her duty. And it does feel like this is going to be like a hurdle that she's going to have to get over.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So from the next scene, we go into the small council, and this is a quick scene, but basically it just lays the foundation that there's still drama with the sea snake. He's an overly proud man. They've injured his pride. And Viserys is like, he can't still be mad like 4 years later that I didn't marry his little daughter. And they're like, no, yeah, you pissed him off, basically. And then Otto is saying, well, actually, I have even more bad news. And I received word from Old Town from my brother. And Lord Corlys is engaged in negotiations with the Sea Lord of Bravos, and is wedding Lena to his son, entering them into an alliance with the Free Cities. So Bravos, we saw Bravos in the main series. That's where Arya went to learn the arts of the Faceless Men. It feels like this is obviously a little shaky for the Seven Kingdoms because this is a free city. It's not part of the Seven Kingdoms. And this very powerful house is now making an alliance with one of the free cities. It's also very powerful. They have a lot of money in, markets and trade. And they also have a lot of assassins, it sounds like, with, the Faceless Men. And it doesn't seem like this is a good thing for the Seven Kingdoms, for sure.
No.
Does not seem like a good thing for Viserys. Like he's on shaky ground with Lord Corlys, and now Lord Corlys might be making deals with like elite assassins. Like,
not great.
This might not end well for the Seven Kingdoms.
Yeah, not great.
So.
One thing I did want to note though that Rhaenyra has moved from the cup girl to having a seat at the table in the last 4 years, which is really nice. Last we saw, they didn't really want her involved. They didn't want her sitting around at the table or giving her input. We didn't see her give any input, but at least she was able to sit there and had the respect of being able to sit along, around the table with the rest of the men. So that was nice to see.
Yeah.
So we head back to Viserys' chamber. Babies are crying. The nurses are headed over to Viserys' room to tend to his wounds, which have only gotten worse. He has sores all over his body. Like, we don't know what's going on with this guy, really. It still seems like he's getting infected by the throne, but obviously he has to sit on the throne. So I don't know that we ever find out what his actual ailment is, but it just doesn't seem to be getting any better. You can also see, and I guess this is something that happened last episode as well that I missed in my watches, but he's missing fingers. Like, you can see that in his gloves, like the 2 fingers are just empty. So things are not going well for him. He's very ill, it seems, still hiding it from most people. And Alicent comes in and she kind of sends everybody out, and she's like, I'll do it. And they have almost a nice scene. I won't say it's a nice scene because obviously there's like a creepy dynamic between the two of them, but she is nice to him. She's more gentle with cleaning his wounds. So if they were the same age, this would be nice. And if she had a choice to marry this man, this would be nice, but we know that's not the case. So yikes.
Yeah.
In juxtaposition. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna ask a question for you both. This is it to me. I thought, like, is this grayscale that Viserys has or no?
We were talking about this. We're not sure because I don't think they like, I'm not far enough in the books to know what he has. So I can't actually confirm if he has anything. Like, again, the thing with the Game of Thrones books is even if you read them, like, they could just change it to something else.
Right.
I feel like if it was grayscale at this point, it probably would be further along, right?
In 4 years, I think it would spread pretty quickly, right?
Yeah.
I think we knew that the crab feeder had grayscale.
He for sure had it.
Yeah. And what we talked about, I think, last week was like Daemon was touching him with his bare hands when he pulled the body out. So I don't know how grayscale spreads, but I don't know what the king has. It just seems like originally it started with a sore on his back and it wouldn't heal, and then his finger started rotting. Something seems to be taking over him in form of some kind of infection, but just don't know really what. And I don't know if we'll ever know. Maybe we're just supposed to assume that it's something. I don't know.
Yeah. No, okay. I mean, maybe they'll talk about it. Maybe not. Yeah, you're right. Maybe we'll see. Just was curious because I just remember like the first scene, like where he just stabbed himself randomly on the sword, where it all started.
Right.
Like, was the sword poison? Will we get more information about that? Like, that's why that came to mind. Like, will we get an explanation for why this man is sick? But
I would love to know what it has to do with the throne, because you're right. Like, we saw his hand get pricked and then he lost that finger. So what else, like, what's going on here with the throne and how is it related? And they were saying that it got infected by him sitting on the throne. So that is a good question. If maybe something is poisoned on the throne, I don't really know. But I do hope we find out and just get some confirmation of what's going on with him.
Agreed.
But Rhaenyra, juxtaposed with this scene of Viserys and Alicent. This goes on for a little while, but Rhaenyra enters her room. She walks in. She says goodnight to Sir Criston Cole, who's guarding her room, and she sees like a bag, and she's like, "What is this?" And she takes all the stuff out of the bag, and it's filled with kind of like a disguise or peasant clothes. And then she sees a drawing of her room, her bed, basically, and there's kind of like, it points to a secret passage that it didn't seem like she knew was there. And she pushes on the panel behind her bed and it leads to a passage. It's a door. Surprise. And then she kind of just walks through. She puts this outfit on and there's Daemon waiting for her outside. Surprise.
Yeah, that was great. At first I was like, what's going on? Where is this bag? And then I'm like, oh, she getting out. She's going out. I'm surprised she didn't know about this before.
Right? That seems unsafe to not know that there's a passage to literally the outside. That
seems
like
a safety measure. Like,
right.
You know, like this is how you escape the castle if stuff goes down. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Or if can someone get in that way?
Yeah.
Does Sir Criston Cole know that's there?
Sure. Yeah.
He might now. Who knows? No one knows except her and apparently Daemon.
Right. So, Daemon kind of just stands there. They like look at each other and, you know, they go out and he takes her to the town, basically, the Street of Silk. She's just experiencing everything. She has this hat on, so it's hiding her hair. She kind of looks like a little boy, I guess. Not really, but they want you to think she does. And no one recognizes her. So she's going up to this person with like a person's skin on its face. Like it just looks fucking crazy, this person. And they're like, do you want to see how you're going to die, boy? And stuff. And it's like just this wild experience, for her. And she's kind of loving it. And he takes her to a show, and we saw a similar show to this in Game of Thrones 2 and Bravos, actually, where they, portrayed, I think it was Ned dying at the time, and Arya was in the audience. Same thing here, kind of. They're showing the king, them acting as the king and making her the heir, and then saying Aegon should be the heir, and people are booing her, and she kind of like boos them back. And Daemon says to her, jest if you will, but the small folk believe that Aegon should be heir. And she says, well, their wants are of no consequence to me. And he says, well, they will be of consequence to you if you tend to rule them one day. And I thought that was really interesting, because that's good advice from Daemon. Like, he tells her to care what the people say. And I'm kind of like, okay, Daemon's like kind of maturing a little bit, but like also not at all. It's just, he's such an interesting character. But they're having the time of their lives out on the street here. She kind of like steals something and then throws it, and then she runs down the hall, down like an alleyway, and I guess this is a gold cloak. The guy had a gold cloak on, but grabs her and says, like, where are you running, boy? And then he realizes that it's her, and then sees Daemon, and it seems like he's about to do something. She's like, no, don't, like, we want to be here. And he goes, enjoy your freedom or something like that, and lets her go. And then they end up in a brothel. And we have a scene here. Now we're cutting back and forth between poor Alicent, who's trying to go to bed. She has a little sip of, I don't know if it's wine or water or whatever. She gets into her bed clothes and she's sleeping. And then her handmaiden comes in and says, the king requests your presence. And she's like, it's really late. I don't want to. And she's like, yeah, I know it's late, but
yeah, you have no choice.
Get the fuck up. Yeah. You have no choice. And she's laying there basically lifeless, and the king is just having sex with her. And this is such a disturbing growth. He has sores all over himself. Looks like she's just mentally anywhere but there, trying to leave her, her soul leaving her body. And it's just like, that sucks. Poor Alicent. This is where she ended up. Oh, because of her dad.
Yeah, that scene was not. I was just like, we didn't need to see this. They could have just closed the door and let me know. Let my mind do it. Yeah, we know what's happening here. You don't have to show Alicent like this, but of course.
Yeah, poor Alicent. It's rough for her. And while we're there, Rhaenyra is having these new experiences. They go into the brothel. Everybody's fucking. Everything's going on that you can imagine in this place. Like, everybody's having a great time. And Daemon's basically like, yeah, this is where people go to experience things that, they want to experience. And they, if sex can be pleasurable for everybody, even a woman. And then they basically also start having sex. And I was just like, this isn't actually happening right now. And then I was like, oh no, this is happening right now.
Okay, I was like, is this a dream? I think someone's dreaming. Like this is not
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like,
reality.
oh, they're making out. Oh, she's taking her shirt off. Oh, okay. This is about to go down. But I will say, I did watch at the end of the episode, there was the after the episode that they do kind of like behind the scenes sometimes. And the director of the episode was on. She said that they did not have sex because Damon couldn't get it up, which we saw in the first episode. But this did not translate to me in the episode at all. Like, I would not have known that
Yeah, you didn't
unless
say
I
anything
watched
about
that.
Yeah, exactly.
What?
Yeah.
I thought, oh, that's so interesting. I thought it was just because Damon realized, like, I don't actually want to have sex with her. I just want the like this like conversation to happen that she did have sex to like you know ruin her chance at being queen or whatnot. So I actually thought that it was meant for him to make it seem like they weren't, like he didn't want to have sex with her actually. I thought that was the one redeeming thing about Damon, was like, okay, he didn't actually want to have sex with her. He was just doing this. But that's actually makes it even worse now that I know that.
Yeah, I think he did, and he just couldn't perform, according to the director. And she was saying, a woman directed it, and she was saying, you know, like that whole scene was meant to show, you know, like women want to have sex too, but Damon just like couldn't do it. And I was like, oh, okay. So that didn't translate. Didn't realize that was going on. But in the first episode, we did see him having an issue as well with Masari. I think her name is Masaria, who he was with at the beginning, and he couldn't get it up then either. So I guess this is an issue for him sometimes, maybe when he's stressed. I don't know. But he kind of just leaves her in the dust. She's still trying to go for it and make out with him a little more and get it going, and he just leaves her there. Pretty rude.
Yeah, that was rude.
I literally wrote, no, this is twisted. Cancel the show. Like I want y'all to understand how taken aback and how like I was mad because like I said earlier, I didn't want this relationship to go down this path. I was mad at Damon, of course. I don't think she's over 18 yet because Allison's baby's only like a few months old. So she was like 15, 16. So she's probably not even.
I think in the last episode she was 17, so she might be 18 now. Because I think they said that she's of age now, right?
Yeah, she was. If we do the math,
because they were telling her 10 and 7. The last episode,
Oh yeah, you're right.
First episode she was 15. Second episode, I think she's. Wait, did they announce the marriage the second episode? Right?
Yes.
So she's 6. Yes. They're 16 by then. And then it's a year later because the baby's born. So it's 17, maybe 17 and a half. And then it's been about half a year or whatever. So I think she's I think they make a 18.
Reference to her being 18 at some point, or saying that she's of age. Okay. I think they do.
All right. So
but not that it makes it any better.
Not that it makes it better.
One less icky thing about the scene. But still a terrible moment for me as a viewer.
Yeah, not great. Also, this is another one of those episodes just in general that was shot very dark. So it was a little tough to see, especially this time when I was watching it again, because it was a little earlier in the day. So I was like, damn, this episode's a little hard to see. I don't know if you guys got that same feeling, but that's why I think maybe for me too, like it didn't translate that he left because he wasn't able to perform. I did not get that sense at all.
No, I didn't either.
Interesting. Neither. But yeah, Damon, I'm confused. Like, is he into her? Is he not into her? Is he conflicted about being into her? Like, is he just using her, manipulating her? Is it a little of both? Like, what's his motivation here? It seems like he really likes her and cares for her and might have feelings for her, but also it's his niece, and maybe he sees this as also a way to get back at his brother. And Javier, like you said, like kind of ruin her from being queen. So it wouldn't be him now at this point. He has an heir, a male heir, so it's not like it's going to be Damon. I don't know what the motivation is here.
I think he's conflicted. I think he doesn't know how he feels. Like, he's known her, like, you know, he's her uncle. Like, he saw her grow up and everything, and he's just feeling these like feelings and doesn't know what to do with them. I think you could see it when they were like making out or whatever. He was like, do I want to do this? I don't know what to do here. So, for sure.
And he makes a comment about like, this is where people come to do things where they don't want to be seen, or, like let their inhibitions out or something, something along those
Yeah.
lines. So it almost feels like, he's saying like, we can do anything we want here. But guess what? You can't, because there's a little kid spying on you. There's a little kid spying on you. Guess what? Your party's over. This little kid, it's very reminiscent of Varys and his little birds back in, in the future in Game of Thrones, where there's just spies all over the town in the form of little kids. Because there's a little boy in this brothel, and he runs out when Rhaenyra leaves to go after Daemon, or Daemon really leaves her and she leaves. And I'm just like, oh shit, this kid's gonna rat them out. And guess what? He does. But not before Rhaenyra goes home and brings Kristen Cole into her room. She walks by him and he's like, what the hell? Because he put her to bed, essentially. She was in there, and then all of a sudden she comes walking by. He comes in, she takes his helmet, they have a little flirty moment, and now she's like, oh, I can hook up. Like, this is pretty fun. I just hooked up with my uncle. I'm feeling myself. He ditched me, but like no reason that we can't like get it done with Kristen Cole, who she probably actually wants to hook up with. And she brings him in the room. They flirt a little bit. He seems a little apprehensive, but eventually she kisses him and he lets it happen. Rhaenyra really good at taking off armor, and like, how long do you think that took, like overall, to take all that armor off? Feels like it took probably a really long time. Does it kill the mood?
I feel like that would kill the mood,
right?
Because it's like armor and chainmail and all this stuff,
Yeah, it's a lot going on for Rhaenyra, and also I didn't know Rhaenyra was like such a seductress. Like, where's this energy that Rhaenyra has? I was like, okay, work. Like,
she's found her power,
Yep. Daemon awoke, no pun intended, or I guess pun intended, awoke the dragon within her, and now she's like, oh, okay. Well, this is the guy I like really want to be with, so let's just get it going. Seems like she had a little confidence after her experience with freedom out in the streets and in the brothel. So Kristen Cole eventually gave in, and then they had sex, and she was in control of the situation. So a complete opposite of what our poor friend Alicent was doing. And this is just another like opposite situation that the two of their roads are just very, they're really diverging from each other. Poor Alicent is in this traditional situation. She's the highest woman in the realm, but she's kind of miserable. And Rhaenyra will be the highest woman maybe one day soon if she ever does get to sit on the Iron Throne, and she's just doing whatever she wants, and she's breaking tradition. And it's very interesting because, it feels like this whole time Alicent has been this very traditional person, and Rhaenyra has been this very rebellious person, and it's just interesting to see them grow up and see their parallels, but also their differences.
I feel like this is actually a good scene because it shows just like, you have Alicent, who basically is forced into this thing. She has no control. She's just kind of confined into this relationship, whereas Rhaenyra's just like got all this power. She can do whatever you want. So I feel like it's just I could feel like with this episode, and maybe even before, and even when she's like holding the baby, has to soothe the baby and whatever, it's just showing a buildup of resentment, I think, over time.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with what you're both are saying. And yeah, it kind of shows like the opposite ends of women almost in this time period. Like, there's the women who try to be rebellious like Rhaenyra, and then there's the women who unfortunately are like Alicent and have to be put into situations they don't want to be in. So it's like, and like, it's also interesting because they're like best friends. So like, it even more so highlights the juxtaposition between the two of them. So
yeah, it's almost like Rhaenyra is like breaking the mold of what the traditional woman is supposed to be in so many ways, right? Like, she's going to be the first queen, whereas I guess it's her second cousin, or I don't know how things are, great aunt or cousin. I guess it's her cousin because it's Viserys' cousin, so it's maybe her second cousin. Was the queen who never was, and now she is like, no, I will be the queen, and they will bow to me. And she is taking control of the situation, and she is seducing Sir Kristen Cole instead of being used as an object. I don't want to say she's using him as an object. I think that she does really actually like him, but she's just like, yeah, I'm doing whatever I want. And I don't care about what a woman's role is and a man's role is. Like, I'm just going to do it. So love that for her. And I like that she gets to experience pleasure and understand that like it doesn't have to be the way that it is for Alicent for her, and she's just making her own path. So causing some waves though along the way for sure. But she's doing it her way. We do see Otto, fucking Otto, man. He comes out and
Otto's a mess.
a knight is like, oh, I got some gossip for you from the White Worm, and I guess this little kid is the White Worm. And this kid's an asshole, and he basically tells Otto everything that went down. And then we see Otto just like stressing about what to do with this information. But before we get there, we did see Daemon somehow wake up in Masaria's room or something. I don't really know where he is, but I guess she came back to King's Landing. This was like a little bit of a weird scene to me. This felt really out of place. I don't know why she was there, but it does seem like when we last saw her on Dragonstone that she left him. And now she's back, and she tells him that she's not a whore anymore. He calls her a common whore, and she says, I'm not a whore anymore. And she seems to be running this in because she tells him that, you can pay for the room on your way out. How'd she find him? What's he doing there? Where is this place? I have no idea. It just seemed a little weird. Unexplained.
Yeah, I'm like, where are we right now?
Right.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Yeah, that scene threw me off too. I was like, what?
There's like
Okay,
no explanation. Yeah.
Like, was it even necessary? I don't know what was how does it move the plot forward,
Right. Unless maybe we'll see something to do with it later. Who knows? But it was just it felt out of place. I'm sure that they'll explain it later, but it definitely felt a little weird and out of place.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like, did he leave the brothel and like go find her? I don't know. It's all very confusing, very unexplained. It feels like it was a weird plot hole there. Not plot hole, but like just didn't feel like it made sense. But then we do go back to Otto, who's extremely stressed out. He doesn't want to tell the king what he just found out, very obviously, but he's like, this is gonna, like, what do I do? Do I kill this guy? Like, this is gonna destroy him. Also, like, what's it gonna do to me? Which I feel like is what he was probably more concerned about, and not necessarily the king himself. Although I do think he cares for Viserys. I don't think that he dislikes him. I just think he probably, like everybody else, thinks that he needs a lot of guidance and that he's not very capable, and he knows that he's sick. So yeah, I don't know. This Otto's messy. And this was I really like this scene actually. And I like the scene a lot from Viserys because he felt like a loving, protective dad in this scene. And I really liked that. Because it doesn't feel like he shows that to Rhaenyra ever, but he shows it to other people about her. And I just wish he like had more of that relationship with Rhaenyra. Like, I wish that she knew how much he really does like love and care and want to protect her.
Yeah. He just needs to do it instead of yelling all the time.
Right. Like, I hope that they get there at some point because obviously he's sick. I can only imagine that he's not going to be with us forever. And I just hope that they kind of like get on that level at some point because it just feels like they're not.
Yeah, I hope they get to a good point just because Rhaenyra didn't get to say bye to her mother. Like, like, even though her and Viserys have a rocky relationship, if she doesn't get to say bye to Viserys or if they leave off on terrible terms, it's just going to be... This poor girl's gonna be like so much trauma for poor Rhaenyra. So I hope that they end up on like decent terms by the time we lose Viserys. I'm assuming that's gonna happen eventually.
Yeah, and it does feel like even earlier in the episode she tells Daemon that my father's just wanting to sell me off, and yeah, he does talk to her. Even in the last episode, he tells her like, we do have to get married, and in our role, we're rulers, we have to get married to forge alliances, but like, I want you to find who you want to be with.
Yeah.
And obviously he does set up this tour and puts in a lot of work for her to find the right guy, but also maybe it's just it's a little misguided. It seems like not exactly a choice for her in the way that maybe she expected, but it does feel like he wants her to be happy, and he says that to Otto, that he doesn't want to command her in the last episode. He wants her to just be happy. And I don't know that that's coming through to her. I think she's still very much like, he wants me to be a son. He wanted a son and I'm a daughter, and it's not what he wanted. And then he made me heir just to spite Daemon. And now he has a baby and he wants the baby to be heir instead. And it just feels like now he wants to sell me off. It just doesn't feel like she's seeing that he's like really meaning well for her. Yeah. And he really is trying.
I think he's trying to save her, in the sense of, he knows the people. He knows like kind of the pulse of the people.
Yep.
I feel, and he's trying to save her in a sense of you need to follow these rules. So
Right.
at least you have that. But if you're a woman who's going to rule and you're also just doing your own thing, like
Yeah.
it looks bad.
Yeah. Yeah, like she's going to lose control of the kingdom
Yeah,
eventually when she takes it over.
absolutely.
She's kind of being a little reckless. She is a little
She
bit. I mean,
is.
it's great that she's following what she wants to do, but she, from like an establishment point of view, she definitely is being a little reckless.
Yeah, she needs to follow the rules.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I
So,
agree. I think Viserys means well. And it's just not getting across to Rhaenyra yet. So hopefully hopefully she comes to terms with like, okay, my dad is trying to find the perfect balance between the tradition and like also having a daughter who kind of wants to do things her own way. So hopefully Rhaenyra can get to that point where she sees that her dad is not just trying to like,
Yeah.
I don't think Viserys is being malicious. You know what I'm saying?
no,
So
I don't think so either. I really think that he's trying to do the right thing for the realm, the right thing to set her up for success, the right thing for himself as king, and he wants her also to be happy. So I don't know. Poor Viserys. He makes me just feel sad. He really does. I just feel sad for the guy. So Otto comes in, and this is just rough. He basically says it's no easy thing to tell a father of his daughter's exploits. And then he's like, what are you talking about? It's bright and early, first thing in the morning, wants to tell him this thing in secret before they go to the council. And he's just like, oh, is it the Stepstones or is it Lord Corlys? Like, what's going on? And he's like, no, it's Rhaenyra. And he's like, I've considered saying nothing, but the princess was spied last night. And he does say spied, which is interesting because like she literally was spied last evening beyond the walls of the keep in a pleasure house. And Viserys is like, okay, and like, what of it? And he says she was carrying on with her uncle. They were engaged in behaviors unbecoming of a maiden and of a princess. And then Viserys says, well, what behaviors? And he goes, well, must I say it, Your Grace? Like, he doesn't even want to say it. And he said, you enter my bedchamber accusing my daughter of something. Now speak it plainly. Like, he's like, no, tell me exactly what. Daemon and Rhaenyra were seen together in the bowels of a pleasure den, coupling, which is like the creepiest way that maybe you could say this. I mean, I don't know. I guess anything you say is going to be creepy, but like coupling is a weird, I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
These medieval terms be getting me sometimes. I'm like, couple.
I know.
Like, oh Lord.
I know. Oh, I know. So Viserys is kind of like, okay. And then he says, this is a lie. And he says, you've been lied to. And he wants to know who's responsible for the gossip. He wants the rumor monger brought right to him because he will take his eyes. And Otto is pretty much like, I can't tell you. I'm not going to tell you. I can't reveal my sources, which I'm kind of like, the king is telling you, like, I want you to bring this person to me and I will take his eyes out. And you're saying no? Bold. A little bit of a bold move. And Viserys says, are you so sick with ambition that you would have my daughter stalked, spied upon, awaiting your best chance to destroy her reputation? You think yourself a cunning man, your desires are obvious, and you wish to have your own blood on the Iron Throne so badly that you wish to destroy mine own. And at this point, I was like, yes. Tear this man down. Tear him down.
Damn.
Yep. I literally wrote, Viserys grew balls. Let's go, Viserys.
Yes. I love to see it. He kicks him out of the room. And I was just, I just feel really bad, again, for Viserys here. Because he now hears this information about his daughter. He probably was like in a good mood. He just got it in with his wife the night before. Was probably feeling good about it. He has his brother back. They've made amends. Rhaenyra's home, whatever. Like, she canceled the tour. He's frustrated. But the family's back together. Everybody's together. And now this is what you have to wake this man up and tell him the next day. Like, you're going to tell him that his brother and his daughter were coupling in the bowels of a pleasure den. Like, that sucks. This poor guy. I just feel like this probably really hurt him from so many different angles. He's upset with Otto. He just wants to protect his family. Like, his family's back together. They have a small family. And now Otto just kind of, I mean, Daemon tore it apart. Rhaenyra kind of tore it apart. But Otto, like, really should have just, like, pushed it away. Leave it alone. Like, yeah, it's not gonna, it probably wouldn't have come out the way that he thinks that it would have. You know what I mean? Like, maybe it would have, but I don't know. It just didn't feel necessary.
It definitely wasn't. I feel like it was another last ditch effort to try to get her off the throne, but like, no.
Yeah.
I do wonder if, like, knowing Daemon, if he did it with the intentions to get caught, you know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
I think Damon almost wanted this to be known, or did it become like, since it's known, Damon was like, okay, how can I use this? I don't quite
Right.
know which of the situations it is at the moment.
Yeah, I don't know either. And I almost feel like, well, I guess we could jump there, right? Like, Allison hears the news because she's in the room. She's kind of like hiding behind like a changing, whatever those things are called, like a little wall thing, separator, I guess. And she tells Sir Kristen Cole, to come get Rhaenyra. He comes in. She's like, oh, she's so excited to see him in the room. And then he's just like, the queen is looking for you. Do you think he knows about Damon? I can't tell. He seems very like, or do you think he's nervous that like people found out about him? Because his whole demeanor's off. He seems very like nervous and shy.
I think it's the latter. I think he's nervous that, did someone see me going into these quarters and notice something?
Yeah.
Because I don't know why he would get an inkling of, I guess people talk, so maybe if one person told Otto, but I don't think the whole kingdom knows. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's him more so being nervous for himself.
Yeah. I hope that he didn't know, because I would just feel bad for him. I don't want him to feel bad. Everybody's feeling bad. I don't want him to feel bad too. So she goes out, she meets Alicent by the Godswood, and this is where I thought the CGI was really bad. Like, the tree just looked so ridiculous. I was just like, usually these look pretty good, but this one, I don't know. Something about it.
That's so funny because I was looking at it too, like the fragrances tree.
It looked so fake. I was like, this is
driving me crazy.
Weird. It just looked weird in the scene for some reason. I don't know why.
No, I'm glad you brought it up. So, but actually, the CGI scene that I was thinking about, it was a little earlier when Alicent was holding her baby. She was like in the chambers.
Oh yeah,
and you can see her looking out to the kingdom. I was like, what is this green screen right here? I don't know if you guys have y'all ever watched the show Once Upon a Time?
I've heard of it. I've never watched it.
Okay.
Yes.
No. Okay,
so much green screen.
Yes, that show. I used to love Once Upon a Time, the first few seasons, and there was some terrible, terrible green screen, and it reminded me of like a scene where like the Queen Regina would stand and like look out into the kingdom, and you would just be like, "Can we skip this scene? Like this is so bad." And that's the vibe I got in that scene. So it was just really funny to see. Like, it just really brought me back to that. Like, especially with the bigger budget of this show, it was just really funny to me.
Well, there's no. So I don't know if you guys heard this. I didn't see it, but last week, apparently, during the scene where they were at the hunt, there was a part where Viserys was sitting on the crown, and they were green screening his fingers out, but they screwed something up, and you can actually like see the green, like you could see the green on his fingers. And I'm just like, there's no way you're spending $20 million. I didn't notice it, but apparently it was like a big. It was almost like the new Starbucks cup that was in the first season. I didn't notice it. I didn't go back and look, but I think they edited it. They fixed it in post, obviously, since then. But like, guys, what are we doing with the green screens here?
That is hilarious.
What are we doing?
Get it together.
You guys are experienced.
Oversight.
Okay, what are we doing here? Total oversight. So Alicent is like shaken, and she basically says, what her father told the king. And she said, what are you doing? My father told the king that you fucked Damon. Basically, that's what she says, that you fucked Damon.
Yeah.
And Rhaenyra denies it, and she said, and Alicent says, well, you Targaryens certainly have your queer customs, and I wouldn't put it past Damon. So I'm just like, yeah, she's calling you guys out. You guys do love incest. You do. I mean, it's in your family. Your whole family is all from the same bloodline. It is a thing. And Rhaenyra says, your father's a gossip, and she says, my father is no gossip. And she obviously is believing what her dad is saying, which she should, because it's true. And then Rhaenyra kind of gets on the defensive, and she says, to question my virtue is an act of treason. And she says, who said this? And she then says, I overheard, I was a spectator. So Rhaenyra says, I didn't do anything. Damon sank into his cups, left me for some whore. Like, I should have known better. We went to a bunch of different taverns. And Rhaenyra swears on her mother that she did not have sex with Damon, which she didn't, because Damon couldn't, but she says, I did not touch him. So she does lie to Alicent here pretty adamantly. And Alicent says, well, either way, whatever happened, like, it was foolish of you to put yourself in this position where your virtue is questioned. Because if the lords believe that you're sullied, then this is going to ruin everything. And Rhaenyra's kind of like, yeah, I know, like, but that didn't happen, which she's fully lying.
Oh yeah.
I during the scene I was like, wow, Rhaenyra is a savage. Like, she's
savage,
lying on her mother, who earlier in the episode you were like basically saying how much you miss your mother still, but she's like, nah, like, I don't care, this is more important. I was like, okay, Rhaenyra, like, I guess do what you got to do to Save
She got a little
yourself.
Damon in her after all, I guess. Just
Yeah.
No,
not in the way.
she shows pieces of it, like when
Yeah.
you know, in that whole scene, so it makes sense. She's a
Yeah.
Targaryen
Yeah.
through and through, like
Yeah.
Oh, she is for sure.
yeah.
For sure. So while this is happening, or maybe right after, I don't know if it's at the same time or not, but Damon stumbles back into the kingdom. Just a disaster. He's like covered in blood. He can like barely walk. He's just a freaking mess. And then the King's Guard just like grabs him, fully just drags him into the throne room, drops him on his face on the floor. And Viserys comes in looking very royal. He has like red and black outfit. He had a really great costume on in the scene. I like loved his red and black like king's outfit. It just looked very badass. Mostly black, but it had like red trim. He just looked really cool.
Yeah. I'm
looked
sorry,
very
I just want to
kingly.
interrupt. I want to
Yeah,
interrupt that
please.
one because what's it called? I also loved I think Allison was also wearing like a red and black outfit at some point.
Yeah, I think maybe at the earlier. I think it was earlier
Yeah.
at the party for Damon. There was, I think her dress was kind of like red and blackish.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
Yeah,
with the
she looked
terrible
good.
green screen. It was during the terrible green screen. I remember.
I was not paying attention.
Yeah. The costumes look great. They look great. And honestly, the wigs are better in this show than they were in the original Game of Thrones. I will say they did much better wig work. In
It
this
has to.
series.
Everyone has to wear a wig on this.
Pretty much everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, because of the hair.
Hold on. If we talking wigs, we got to go back to episode 2. The little girl with the
Oh yeah, no, that wasn't a good. That was not a good wig. No.
It was so bad. The memes on Twitter were so
Poor
funny
girl.
about that. I was cracking up on because they were just roasting her on Twitter because that wig was just terrible.
Yeah, that was not a good. That was put that in the lose pile. That was not a good wig.
No.
I wonder what she
overall-
looks like now because she's probably 16 now. It's been 4 years. I wonder if if we'll see her again.
Sure.
And see if maybe it's an older actress. Maybe if they got her a better wig. I don't know. Hopefully.
I hope so.
Yeah. Was her brother's wig any better when we saw him last episode at the end with the crab feeder? I don't remember.
I don't remember.
I didn't notice it, so I guess it wasn't so bad.
Yeah, I
but-
didn't notice it either.
Yeah.
I feel like I would have been dragging it if I know. Knowing myself, I'd have been like, that's not okay.
Yeah, no, we got to do something about this. So Viserys says, my daughter, and then, Daemon doesn't really say anything. He says, won't you even deny it? And then he says, you defiled her, and then kicked him in the chest. Just kicked him while he's laying down on the ground. And I was like, Viserys just keeps like going up and up in my ranks here. And I like Daemon, but like, I like when I don't know. I don't know why I love
Kick
Viserys
his
so much. I
ass.
just really do. And he basically, Daemon says, what's the matter, brother? When we were Rhaenyra's age, we fucked our way through the brothels of the streets of Silk. And he says, we were young men. She's just a girl. She's your niece, basically. Like, dude, it is not the same. And Daemon says, better her first experiences with me than with some young whore. And it's like, I'm sorry, sir.
No,
What?
sir.
What?
Turn around. Stop.
Yeah. Viserys was not happy about this, grabbed him by the neck, gets in his face, and then says, you ruined her. What lord will wed her now in this condition? And then here's where I'm with Daemon. He says, who gives a fuck what some lord thinks? You're the dragon and your word is truth and law. And I'm like, that's right. Like, Daemon is right here. Like, you're the king. You're the dragon. You're the Targaryens. Like, who cares? Who cares what some lord thinks? But then Daemon really gets wild, and he's like, you know what? Why don't you just wed her to me? Like, you said when I gave you my crown that I could have anything that I wanted, and I want Rhaenyra. I'll take her as she is, and I'll wed her in the tradition of our house. And this is where I'm like, what's happening? Is he doing this because he wants to be with Rhaenyra and like loves Rhaenyra? He hates his first wife. Is this who he really wants to marry? Does he really have feelings for her? Is he really just trying to like screw with Viserys? I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. I think he's just lost. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't even know if he knows what he wants. At this
Yeah, like,
point.
is he trying to make this? Is this supposed to make the situation better? I just don't know.
Because he also, because we in the brothel scene, right? He's lost his like love,
Yep.
basically. So maybe he's just lost, and he, he's like, go back to the Eyrie, like get your stuff together at this point.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. He basically says, you're already married. And Daemon says, well, that didn't stop Aegon the Conqueror from taking his second wife. And Viserys says to him, you're no conqueror. You're a plague sent to destroy me. And I love that. I love that line.
Yeah.
And at this point, he's holding Aegon's dagger to Daemon's throat. And Daemon doesn't even flinch. And he's like, wed her to me and we'll return the House of the Dragon to its proper glory. And then poor Viserys, I think he realizes here that he's just being manipulated. And he's just like, it's not my daughter that you actually lust for. It's my throne. And then that's when he says, go back to the Vale, to your lawful wife. Try to restore whatever honor remains to you or don't. It really doesn't matter to me as long as you're gone from my sight for good. And he banishes him forever. And this is sad because, obviously he was so happy to have him back in his life and just get fucked over by Daemon again.
Yeah, I think this was where, I feel like Daemon's just being shady. Like, Daemon saying he wants to marry Rhaenyra. First of all, it's to get under Viserys' skin.
Yeah.
But I do think that there is the motive of like, maybe if I'm married to Rhaenyra, something happens to Rhaenyra, I can become king type of thing. I think that might be crossing through his mind as well. Like if Rhaenyra were to die and he were technically her husband, then he can become king. So
Yeah.
like I think he's trying to find a loophole now that Aegon, now that the son is, now that he has a male heir. Like how can I get onto the throne? Because now even if Rhaenyra, something happens to Rhaenyra, there's someone to replace him. So
is that how does the line of succession work then? Like if they're married and she dies, would then he become king? Or if they have an heir, then I guess the heir would become king?
Heir, I think.
Okay, but or would it be Aegon because Aegon's her brother? So then would it go to her brother?
No, it goes.
If she doesn't have an heir.
So if she doesn't have an heir, then it goes to her brother.
Okay.
Yeah,
but would it ever be Daemon?
It would only be Daemon if Viserys didn't have any heirs left.
So we'd have to kill Viserys and all his kids?
I guess so. Yeah, I guess so.
Essentially, yes.
Now it's rough for David because now there's 3 kids.
Yeah, that's pretty rough. Because if you think about, I guess I think about it from like everything going on in England. King Charles now is king, right? And then after that, it'll be William, and then William's kids. Yes. 2 kids. And then if something happens to all of them, then it would be Harry, right? Like, so he's like 6th or 7th in line or something like that. Like, it's never going to happen for him. But he renounced himself anyway, right? But I don't really know. I don't follow that. But like, I guess that would be the same type of thing here. And it would never be Harry's or William's wife. It would just be the kids, right? Yeah. I don't know. Very confusing. So after this, we see Viserys and Alicent in his chamber. They're sitting at the window with the bad green screen again, looking out into the kingdom. They love this view. And she asks, have you spoken to Rhaenyra? And he says no. And she says, it's really not in Rhaenyra's nature to be deceitful, but I cannot say the same for your brother. And she says, you really believe that he lied? And she says to him, like, how often does he speak the pure truth? And he then says, like, well, how would this benefit him? And then she just says to him, like, by reducing you. It makes you look stupid. Like, this makes you look bad. So he says, whatever transpired, Rhaenyra is not innocent. And she's really having Rhaenyra's back here. And she's like, only because Daemon was corrupting her. And he says to her, Daemon and Rhaenyra share the blood of the dragon. They're reckless and chaotic. And Alicent says, she swore to me and I believe her. And I really think it's because she swore in her mother that Alicent believes her, which we know is not true, which is kind of sad. Kind of making a fool of Alicent. So after this, Rhaenyra gets brought to the king. She goes into his chambers and she's kind of looking at this model of old Valyria, and she seems like as she's walking in, she's really like taking it in, and it makes me wonder when's the last time she's been there, that she's like seen this. It didn't seem like it was something that she'd seen before. I know that's like a really small detail, but I thought that was interesting that it seemed like she had never seen it. And Aegon's dagger is in the fire, and you can see kind of some inscriptions on it. And he says this dagger belonged to Aegon the Conqueror, and it was Aenar's before him, and then before that it was difficult to know. Never heard of Aenar before. Don't know who that man is. I guess he was some Targaryen king. And then he says they put the Song of, the pyromancers, before Aegon was gone, they put the Song of Ice and Fire into the steel of the blade. It says, from my blood comes the prince that was promised, and his will be the Song of Ice and Fire. And okay, so at the beginning of the show, they talked about a Song of Ice and Fire being like the long winter, and I can go back in my notes and see exactly what was said, but I don't remember them saying too much about like the prince that was promised. Do you guys remember the prince that was promised?
Yeah.
much? Okay, they did say it. Okay.
Yeah, they talk about the prince that was promised a lot in Game of Thrones. A lot
Well,
more
in
in the
Game of
book.
Thrones, yeah.
Yeah,
But in but in that first episode when Aegon was telling,
Oh, right.
did he say that, or really it was
He
like
didn't
the
say
long
the prince was
winter? Okay.
promised. They just talked about that that there would be
Essentially the
a
White Walker story, right? Yeah.
long winter, and that like they would need the fire
Mm-hmm.
to like
Fire and blood, or no, fire and ice and fire.
ice and fire.
Yeah,
to, like,
that's
take
the
it
song.
out. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought this was interesting because, like, is Jon Snow the prince that was promised or not? Is he or not? I mean, I feel like he is, but is he? I just don't. What are we trying to do? What are we trying
He
to
was
retcon
supposed
here?
to. I feel like he was supposed to be, and then,
They're just retconning what happened, I guess. Because right now he's in the woods, just doing nothing.
Now he's just back home, back to his isolated life.
Yeah, north of the wall with the wildlings. Like, what are we doing? Yeah, I don't know. But he says, the burden of this knowledge is larger than the throne of the king. It's larger than you and your desires. Which, again, like, is it, though? Is it? Why are we trying to make it seem like it was this big deal? It really wasn't that big of a deal. I guess it was, but, like,
it may or may
know,
not.
the way
they
showed
don't know when
it,
it's going to happen, right?
I guess that's true. I guess we know already, like, in retrospect, it wasn't that big of a deal, but...
We know it's 200 years later, but they don't know.
Right. And it was one battle at Winterfell, and then that was it. Nothing ever happened after that. They had Winterfell
they had
one day.
the foresight we do.
It's because they had
only
the
they
ice
knew.
and fire. They had the ice and fire,
I know, but then Arya was the one. Arya let Jon kill the Night King. I'm so mad about it. Okay, anyway, whatever. Jon stalked this man throughout the north and everything, and nothing. They looked each other in the eye, and then, whatever. I'm still mad about it. Anyway, so he says Jaehaerys would have disinherited you, and he tells her that the truth doesn't matter and it's perception, and now they both have to suffer the consequences. And he's kind of right. Like, it doesn't matter if this is the truth or not. Like, Otto knows, so more people are going to know, and this is what everybody's going to think, and this is just an issue. So she says, were I born a man, I could bed whoever I wanted. I could father a dozen bastards, and no one in your court would blink an eye. And he says, yeah, you're right, you could, but you were born a woman. So he gets it. I mean, he's like, yeah, it's a double standard. I get it, but, like, sorry, that's how you're born, and this is a tradition of where we are. Like, sucks. So I feel like, I like that he understands, like, that there's a difference in, like, she is right in everything that she's saying. It shouldn't matter, but it does matter because she was just born a woman. So it feels like he knows, but what's he going to do to change it, So she says, you're going to use this to strip me of my title and name Aegon the heir. And he said, I would, but it's mine to hold the realm together and not so further discourse. And he says, your courtship's at an end. You're marrying Laenor Valyrian, and you'll do so without protest. So she says, oh, I'm going to marry the son of the sea snake so I can be a remedy for your political headache. And he says, you are my political headache, which, like, he's not wrong. He's not wrong. All he would have to do is say, yeah, my son's my heir, and everybody would be happy. But he's really sticking up for her and, like, having her back here, and she's doing nothing but kind of destroying this for herself and for him, and she's doing everything to kind of just, like, make it as hard as possible, unfortunately. So he tells her, the combined strength of dragons and naval fleets, and no one would dare to stand against them, and the House of the Dragon will stand as one. So she's like, and what will you do about the vulture that perches upon your throne? And he says, what vulture? And she says, Otto Hightower. And then I'm like, okay, get him, Rhaenyra, get him. So he says to her that he's served two kings loyally and faithfully. And she said he wants Aegon to be named his heir and will stop at nothing to see it done, including spying on me to bring about my ruin. And you speak of conquerors, a vision, and the need for strength and unity across the realm. But how can that be accomplished with your most trusted advisor so self-interested? So she really buries Otto here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so this scene. So again, first of all, shout out to Viserys and Rhaenyra. They have another great moment. Every episode, my favorite scenes are when these two talk, interact, have a good conversation. But, like, this was my gripe with this episode. Like, I feel like it almost happened too quickly, like the ousting of Otto. Like 4 episodes in, I feel like it wasn't earned, if that makes sense. Like, when I watch a TV show, I like something to, like, have build up, and I want it to make sense with the build of the story. And I just feel like this was, like, way, like, it was very 0 to 100 for me in terms of getting Otto out. Like, I was shocked that Viserys so quickly was like, sure, like, let's do it. Like, it seemed very out of character for Viserys, and I feel like this was why I didn't really love the episode, because I feel like in terms of the like the story arc, it doesn't really make sense to me. I don't know if y'all agree, or if y'all saw this cap was going to happen, or where do you guys sit on this whole scenario here with Otto?
Well, I knew it was going to happen with Otto. I just yeah, I wasn't sure how it would play out in the show. But you know, maybe the books just don't have enough context, and this is literally how it happened, you know, like maybe he was just sick of his shit, honestly. Like, it's been 4 years.
True.
It's been 4 years. He sees, I think he's finally
Well, it's been since he has been king, right? I mean,
yeah, it's been since but like these 4 years he's shown, like,
yeah,
you know, here's my daughter. Oh, you should make it my grandson. Oh, you should marry you know,
make her marry this baby.
Make her marry a baby. Like, he's sick of this bullshit. Like, he's sick of it at this point. And
right.
you know what it is with the whole, I think that what finally broke it was, like, he came to him with this information in a way where he would, like, he could have just, like, kind of held it. He's his hand, right? Like, just kind of, it's not hurting anyone. It's not doing it. You were showing that you were literally trying to hurt Rhaenyra here to make your grandson the heir at this point. So I think he finally saw his true colors in this one. The final straw.
Yeah. I didn't know that this was going to happen with Otto. So I agree with you, Javier. I do think it was a little sudden. We did see him getting like a little fed up with Otto in the last episode, where he told him to, you know, to marry Rhaenyra off to his literal baby. And we did, who was 2, it was his 2nd birthday. And we did see him say, you know, like, I don't want to command her to do things. I want her to be happy. And it did seem like Otto was kind of like pushing it a little bit with him. But you're right. Like, obviously he was pissed about the information. And he said to him, you know, like, is your ambition, you know, to have your son, whatever. But I just, it does seem like a really rash decision, because he goes from telling Rhaenyra, it's my job to keep the realm in order and not so discourse, but you're literally about to fire your hand in like 5 minutes. And like, what's the council going to say? What are you going to tell them? Why? So yeah, it does seem like we sped there a little bit. You're right. I don't necessarily feel like it was earned. I like that he took Rhaenyra's advice and is saying like, yeah, he is a vulture. But I think, you know, you're right though, Chanelle, too, is that like he's been pushing it with Daemon. And I don't even know if it's like, is he ruining Rhaenyra, or is he trying to ruin Daemon, or is he trying to ruin both of them? Is Viserys just like, listen, you're coming for my only family members just to push your blood up the chain, and like, fuck that? Like, I don't really know, but I do kind of wish we got to see a little bit more of the build up to make it feel more worth it.
Yeah, they're kind of just speeding through things because I feel like they have a lot to cover. So
yeah,
they probably were like, we don't really need to show.
Yeah, we are an accelerated timeline here. Yeah, every episode we've at least been like a year past. Well, the first episode I think was 6 months, but since then it's been 3 years, another year. It's been a lot of time. Yeah, but you're right. I would like to see a little bit more of the build up of the tension between them, and like maybe have this be the straw that broke the back. But I didn't get that from the rest of the episode.
Yeah, no, like I agree with you, Katie, that we have been seeing this build up slowly, and we have I do agree that we kind of just. I do still think it wasn't like this wasn't the episode where this should have happened to me.
Yeah.
But it did happen. But also kind of to go back to Chanelle's point, like almost, I guess, kind of to play devil's advocate, this little boy did come up to Otto and tell Otto, but would it have been worse if Viserys heard this from others? It became the talk of the town, and then he hears that Otto knew about it, and then your hand is your right-hand man, and he didn't tell you this gossip going on in town. So would this have... Was Otto in the wrong here? Because I'm thinking about this, like, I'm just thinking about my own life. Like, I'd rather know things right away than, let's say my best friend tells me something 6 months after. I'm be like, what's going on here?
It was his delivery.
Yeah, I see what you,
Yeah. And I don't know, like, so from what I remember of like, oh my God, what was his name? In the original season, in the original show that had we talked about him before, but who had the little bird? Yes. Who had the little birds, like, I don't know if Varys' little birds were like spreading the gossip around, or if they were just like bringing it to him. Same with this kid. Like, is the kid going around and like telling other people, or is the kid like specifically being paid by Otto to like find out information and bring it to him? Like, I don't really know. Which again, like, are these people everywhere? Is this someone that follows Rhaenyra everywhere? Like, just waiting for her to screw up? Like, what? I want to know more about that. Like, it also feels like this guy is, you know, we've been saying Littlefinger vibes for the last couple of episodes, but like, this is like Littlefinger would, I think, cover his tracks a little better than that. Like, I think
Yes,
Littlefinger would have been,
agreed.
his manipulation tactics are like top tier, and Otto is just like, I don't know if it's that he's just getting sloppier and just more obvious, or I don't know. It just seems like he's really apparent.
No, he's getting
with what trying to
sloppy.
do.
He's getting sloppy. That's what it is.
Yeah. He doesn't care. Yeah, it's pretty wild. So yeah, he basically says, you know, everybody that wants an audience with the king is self-interested, and she says she disagrees, but she'll do her duty and marry Sir Laenor, but you must do yours as king. And then we cut to the small council, and Otto's walking in, and it's just Viserys there, and he has a pretty good monologue here a little bit. I mean, maybe it's not so much of a monologue because we do get like a few like, I don't know what you mean, Your Grace. But he basically says 5 days, though it was some time ago, and that the details fade in memory. But his father was a hale and healthy warrior and a dragon rider at the peak of his abilities. Jaehaerys named him a great royal hunt to celebrate him being named Hand of the King. And then 5 days later, his father lay dead. Tourneys last longer. Balon the Brave, rider of Vhagar, heir to the Iron Throne, dead of a burst belly. The gods have a dark wit. Is Otto killing these people? No. Yeah? No? Did Otto do something to his father? And now is Otto like doing something to make Viserys get infected with these wounds? Like, maybe I have like too dark of an idea of what Otto's like trying to pull here, but like, is it a coincidence?
That didn't cross my mind, actually.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just like going a little too deep and dark. But
Listen, you never know.
you never know. Like, Littlefinger would do it. They killed Joffrey.
You're right.
Exactly.
I don't know.
That
Otto
would be a good plot twist if on like
I would love. I mean, I would
if
be like, oh
episode
shit.
8 or 9 hits and it turns out Otto was trying to. I would be like,
Otto's a serial
there we
killer.
go. That's storytelling. Right there.
Otto,
Right?
Crazy. The pursuit
well,
of power.
Right. Okay. Episode 4 of the podcast. I said it. If it comes true, I said it. We'll see. So Otto says, yeah, it was a grim day. I recall it too well. And then Viserys says, yeah, it was a good day for you. Though, you know, Jaehaerys named you Hand in Balon's stead. So he's like, yeah, my dad died. That was a shitty day for me, but it was a great day for you. You went from just being a random guy in Jaehaerys' court to the second most powerful man in the realm. And Otto basically says, you know, like, that's hardly how I viewed it, Your Grace. And he says, you know, you served my grandsire nobly in his final days. You were the man who taught me to be king. And he said, just 5 days, you went from being another man in the court to the second most powerful. And then he says, I wonder, how long did it take for you to choose yourself over your king? And Otto's kind of just like, has no idea what to say here. Like, he's been caught. Viserys is on to him.
Red-handed.
He sees everything. And he says, I will never recover from Emma's death, but Alicent, she took me through the worst of my grief. She was a calculated distraction. I only now realize how well calculated it was. So even Alicent, he's figured out the whole plot that Otto was behind this all. And Otto's basically like, that's an absurdity. The queen loves you, and I know, you know, as you love her. And he, you know, Viserys says, your interests no longer align with those of the realm, and your judgment has been compromised. And then he kind of tries to push back a little bit. He says, listen, a loyal king has to tell the truth, even if it's discomforting from time to time. And if he doesn't, he's failed as a servant. And he says, you were a faithful servant, Otto. And then he takes the pin off of Otto's little vest and says, the crown and the realm both owe you a debt that can never be repaid, but I can no longer trust your judgment. Otto's out, fired, done. No longer Hand of the King.
Dun dun.
You know, this works out well for Daemon. I don't think this was Daemon's goal, but clearly Daemon has not been an Otto fan, and now Otto's out, so
Right.
a win for Daemon, I guess.
It is a win for Daemon. A win for Rhaenyra, too. I think Otto was probably the one that was trying to, like, so... I mean, the Maester also is like, she's a girl. Like, he's gross. He is a creep. And then we're going to talk about him in 2 seconds, too. But I don't like that guy. But, yeah, I feel like... Yeah, I mean... Win maybe for Viserys, except not really, because, you know, he is doing his role in protecting his family and protecting himself and, you know, protecting his seat as the crown and protecting Rhaenyra's, Rhaenyra's place. But this was a rough episode, I think, for Viserys. He's been stabbed in the back by everybody, his brother, his daughter, his hand, his wife. Kind of like he realizes now, like, oh, this was all everything was a setup. This whole thing was just an effort to get this guy's blood on the throne. Sucks. Poor Viserys. I feel bad for him.
A bad episode for Viserys.
It's all unraveling. It was so great at the beginning. He had it all. His family was together, his wife, and now nothing. You've got nothing. No hand. Sucks.
In the span of 50 minutes, he lost it all.
Yeah, a lot happened in the span of 50 minutes. It comes at you fast, Viserys. Life comes at you fast.
Poor king.
Poor guy. We end off with the Grand Maester, total creep, coming into Rhaenyra's room, bringing her a tea, and says, you know, if not brewed properly, it won't work or it'll bear unpleasant. It seems like he's saying like side effects. And she's like, what are you talking about? Like, what is this? And he says, it's a tea from the king and it will rid you of any unwanted circumstances, which, like, yeah, I mean, I guess it's plan B tea. I don't know. Like, pretty rough. Yeah, pretty rough. And that's where we end.
Party.
Rough one. Seems like next week things are going to get a little spicy. I mean, it seems like maybe we've jumped a little even more forward in time. It seems like Viserys getting a little more sick. Otto seems like he's leaving King's Landing. I don't really know. But it seems like things are about to speed up even more, maybe, than they already have been.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that part with the tea was wild to me. I was like, whoa, like, I didn't even... I mean, of course it makes sense because in these times there were no like condoms or anything.
Yeah.
Like, I was just like, Rhaenyra just having a good time. Like, this is just a good time for Rhaenyra. But like, I guess like, yeah, that could be like a thing that should be thought about. Like, Rhaenyra could end up pregnant from this situation. So
it's probably a good precaution to take. Hopefully it is easy enough, passes through easily. Yeah. The tea passes through easily enough. Hopefully there was nothing to rid her of and all is good. Doesn't have any side effects from it. Yeah, pretty rough. This guy is such a creep.
It would be him to deliver the tea.
Right? Like,
it makes perfect sense because he's such a weirdo.
Like, she doesn't have a handmaiden that can just bring it and be like, here's some tea. And
her handmaiden is married to her dad now, so.
That's true. And she never got a replacement, I guess, right?
Yeah, they didn't show one at least.
Yeah.
Imagine Cole would have given her the tea. Oh, that would have been crazy.
Oh my
like,
God.
it was like,
Cole, have my baby.
Cole's like, I don't know what I'm giving you, and then Cole eventually will find out, oh, shoot, I gave you the tea. That would have been an interesting little moment there. But since he's like the closest one to her, I feel he's always with her. So,
yeah. Well, what a ride this week. That's where we ended. Any final thoughts to wrap up here before we end? I'm interested to see what happens next with Daemon. I feel like there's a lot happening. It looks like we might get a wedding in the next episode to Laenor. We know weddings don't always end well. Seems like there's some violence going on in the preview too. It seems like we're in for a lot on Sunday.
Looks like a big mess again.
Yeah, this show's messy.
Yes, very messy.
But I love it. I love the mess. I love the mess.
I am here for the mess. It's true.
Yeah, I think, the showrunner described this as Succession with dragons. I might have said this last week too, but like, I don't know if you guys watch Succession, but it really is messy, like Succession with just dragons in like old medieval times. Like, it really is. They were not lying, because Succession is pretty messy, just like this. So, yeah. All right. Well,
Awesome.
no final thoughts. We
Final
can start
thoughts?
going ahead.
Wait, actually,
yeah, go ahead.
I have one final thought. The CGI, y'all. I'm hoping the CGI improves moving forward. That's my final thought.
Javier's like, we need to talk to the special effects crew here.
Yeah.
Get it together.
I know the dragons need money, but we also need to. If this episode had a dragon for like 2 seconds, like,
literally, it was just like, shoo, and it just hit. Like, do we need to be doing this? Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And this is where I think Game of Thrones kind of suffered a lot, because they put so much money into the dragons in the last few episodes that like everything else suffered. It feels like they wasted their whole budget on those dragons, and like, We don't need dragons in every episode. We get it. You all have there's been a dragon in every episode. We know that there are dragons here. We don't need to see it all the time.
And if we are
Keep
going to
them
see
staring.
it, then make it important. Like make
Right.
them burn things.
Right. Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
So.
I'm with you. Okay, we can go ahead and start closing the show here. Javier, thank you again so much for joining us this week. Where can everybody find you if they would like to keep up with what you are up to?
So you guys can find me on Twitter at _ the Starboy. I'm always there tweeting about shows from House of the Dragon to Big Brother to whatever I'm watching at the moment. So catch me there, and here on Fire and Pod. Maybe I'll be back again. Who knows?
Hope so. Chanelle, where can everybody find you these days?
You can find me on, I always say the 3 T's, Twitch, Twitter, TikTok, at Coder Girl Chan. I'm mostly chilling on Twitch nowadays. We're having a big birthday stream on Friday, so that should be really fun. Yeah, we're playing some Cult of the Lamb.
Nice.
You know, should be a good time. But yeah, you can find me mostly on Twitch and Twitter.
Yes, and go check out Chanelle's birthday stream. Get in her cult. Cult of the Lamb is fun if you are a Twitch watcher and you like to interact with your streamers. It's a lot
Join
of fun.
the shark cult, okay?
Yes, Chanelle is a great cult leader.
I am.
You can follow me on Twitter at RealSlimKatie. You can also follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/RealSlimKatie with an underscore at the end. Not ideal with that underscore, but what can you do? So I'm there usually like 3 days a week or so. You can also find me here on Silent Podcast. Things are going to be slowing down a little bit soon. So we have the finale coming of TJ Hates Quitters. Carrie and I will be putting that out, I think, on Friday this week. So check that out. There's a 2-hour finale tonight, actually, as we are speaking. And Bounce Checks, the Big Brother podcast. I think we'll probably have like 2 or 3 more episodes left to go. The show is ending very soon. They're still giving us a lot to talk about on the feeds. I mean, what the hell? Wild. It's like wild, like this episode of Game of Thrones or whatever the show is called, House of the Dragon. Wild on the feeds. It's just, people are just... They're feeling themselves. That's all I'm saying. Feeling each other.
Literally.
Yes. So we will be talking all about that this weekend. And you can also find me on the Cool Water Show, talking all things Real Housewives. With Carrie, we drop that weekly. And then Andor, the Star Wars show, is coming back. So that's another. I don't know if it's limited series actually, but it is another Star Wars series that's coming to Disney Plus. That's premiering next week. So we will be back on the high ground talking about that. I think it's a 3-episode premiere. So we will be back soon, starting to cover that. Isaiah, myself, and Naomi. So check us out there. Thank you guys. And thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. If you have watched us live, I'm just finding our little brand screen here so I can pop it on the page. But if you did like what you were hearing today and you like to hear some of us and some other of our friends talk about, all things TV related, Survivor's coming back, Amazing Race is coming back. There's going to be so much stuff that we're talking about. So just because Big Brother and The Challenge are coming to an end, we have a ton of content happening. Sasha and Chappelle are covering Never Have I Ever. Isaiah and Mark and Davey are covering Survivor Philadelphia, and people are loving that. So definitely check us out. We got a lot going on Silent Podcasts. You can watch us live on Twitch if you would like to comment along with us as we record live. Same on YouTube. You can check us out on Silent Podcast on YouTube if you would like to watch live or watch the video. It is fun. You can also follow us on Twitter at silent_podcasts if you would like to see what we are up to and just get alerted when we go live. You can also give us a listen anywhere you listen to your podcasts. We are on Apple Podcasts, we're on Spotify, we're on Google Podcasts, we're on Pocket Casts, we're on Stitcher, we're on everything. So check us out there and leave us a rating and a review if you liked what you heard. We do prefer 5 stars, so if you would like to wait until you hear something that is worth 5 stars, you can rate us then. But that helps us get discovered and helps us, pop up in searches and all that. So it definitely helps us out. It's an easy way to support and it costs nothing to do so. So thank you guys so much again. Chanelle, Javier, thank you. And we will be back next week to see what crazy shenanigans the Targaryens get up to next time. Until then, we will see you soon. Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.